Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. Our topic for today is about writing chapters 1, 2, and 3. But of course, we are done discussing how to write chapters 1 and 2. So today, we will be discussing how to write chapter 3, which is entitled Methodology of the Study. When you say methodology of the study, it is composed of five specific components, and they are methods and techniques, the respondents of the study, the instrument of the study, data gathering procedure, and data processing and statistical treatment. So the first part of chapter 3 is entitled Methods and Techniques. This is the concise description of the research method and justification for its use. That's why you should have a working knowledge on the different research designs when you discuss methods and techniques. By this time, you should be aware of what kind of design you are going to utilize. Either you're going to use quantitative or qualitative. During our first few discussions, we use quantitative because our objective is to test the hypothesis, and therefore, when you say quantitative, it is statistical in nature. And the source for you to conduct a quantitative research design is that there should be a blind spot, because when you say blind spot, there are conflicting findings in the literature, and you would like to determine the acceptability or rejectability of the hypothesis. That is why, if your problem is a blind spot, it is almost always that your design is a quantitative research design. On the other hand, if you found out that your problem is a blank spot, then you are going to use qualitative research design. It's a common misconception when a researcher immediately jump into conclusion that they will use quantitative or qualitative without identifying first the kind of problem that they will be solving. Because if your problem is a blind spot, again, your goal is to test the hypothesis, whether the hypothesis is rejectable or can be accepted. And by doing so, meaning to say, gagawa ka ng hypothesis testing. And hypothesis testing is statistical in nature. That is why you are going to use quantitative research design. On the other hand, again, when you say naman qualitative, your problem is a blank spot, I'm sorry. So the approach for blind spot and the approach for blank spot is different. So that is the source for quantitative or qualitative research approach. There are cases where you have two problems, and the first problem is a blind spot or quantitative, and the kind of data that you will be gathering would require some explanation. That's where a mixed method approach can be utilized. So meaning, when you write your chapter 3, specifically methods and techniques, it is already clear in your mind what kind of problem you will be addressing, whether a blind spot, a blank spot, or a combination of blind spot or blank spot. There should also be a sufficient description or field procedures followed in the collection of data, such as when, where, and how data are to be obtained. So in our next discussion, we are going to have a lengthy and detailed discussion of the different designs, the quantitative, qualitative, and the mixed method design. There are misleading questions, no? Such as which is better, which design is better, a quantitative, a qualitative research design, or a mixed research design. I would answer that by saying that it depends on the kind of problem that you were able to discover upon reviewing the literature. because the literature will tell you on what kind of design you're going to use. As I've mentioned, if your problem is a blind spot, meaning to say that there are conflicting findings in the literature, then that's the time that you're going to use quantitative. If your problem is a blank spot, meaning to say that there are very limited number of literature supporting your topic, then that's the time that you're going to use qualitative, because it's no longer hypothesis testing. It's going to be generation of theory or development of a framework. That's the main objective of qualitative research design. And of course, quantitative would be mixed design would be a combination of both quanti and quali. We will discuss that in detail in our next discussion. So the next part of your paper is the respondents of the study. When you say respondents, there are two types of, there are two terminologies that you need to be aware of. We call it population and sample. Population in statistics is represented by capital letter N, and it represents the entire possible number of respondents. Wherein the sample size is represented by small letter n, meaning to say that is your target sample size. So when do we use sample size? We use sample size if you think that the total population is too large, that you cannot accommodate all of them. But your goal is to ensure that there will be a representativeness of the entire population. That's the time that you compute for your sample size. Traditionally, they are using the Sloven's formula, no? And that is small letter n is equal to capital letter N over 1 plus capital letter N alpha squared. So that is the formula. But with the advent of technology nowadays, you need not to use the formula anymore. There are available online formula that you can use. All you have to do is to input the data, and the system will give you the actual size that you can use. So that is what you call sample size. So meaning you need to discuss the appropriate sampling design and sample size. When you say sampling design, there are two sampling designs, and they are probability and non-probability sampling design. So there are conditions in which those designs can be utilized. We will have again another discussion on that, because that is also a lengthy discussion. It must also be clear on the appropriate sample size that you're going to use. With the Data Privacy Act of 2012, everyone is reminded not to mention the name of the company, the institution, the school, or the community, meaning that you need to protect the identity of your respondents here. You need to decode them. The next part of Chapter 3 is instrument of the study. It is highly recommended that when you use instrument, the instrument is valid and reliable. We will have again another discussion on how to subject the instrument for validity and reliability testing, just in case you fail to download instruments that are already reliable and valid. How would you know if the instrument is already valid? No? The indication is the reliability index, and that is represented by the Cronbach's alpha. Cronbach apostrophe S alpha. That's Cronbach's alpha. It is usually ranging from 0 to 1. The higher the Cronbach's alpha, the greater the reliability. So hanap kayo ng mga may Cronbach's alpha na 0.7 and above, because that is more acceptable. The next part is the data gathering procedure. You are also reminded that when you do the data gathering procedure, ethical considerations must be done. Ibig sabihin, nakapagpaalam kayo doon sa head ng institution, pinayagan kayo. Pangalawa, the instruments that you're going to use was approved also by the ethical committee. There is this what you call ethics review committee. And of course, the respondents agreed that they will be participating in your in your study, no? Without coercion. But now that we are in the Industrial Revolution 4.0, no, together with the pandemic crisis of COVID-19, we should be very creative on how we would be gathering data because, of course, face-to-face interview is not acceptable, is not recommendable nowadays. So you can ask an assistance from an IT person, or if you have the skill to come up with an online survey, so that you will no longer go outside, and you can just communicate with them through email or through online communications. And finally, data processing and statistical treatment. The reminders are you need to use softwares. There are many available softwares that you can use, either SPSS, Stata, or even Excel. What is important is you are aware of the different statistical tools that will answer the questions that you raise in chapter 1. So, I think that would be all for chapter 3. We will go into the details next time because I think the time is very limited. For now, those are the components of chapter 3. And the next time we meet again, we will discuss the every detail of chapter 3 or the methodology. So again, thank you so much and God bless.